even go on playing. They should just call it a year.
I mean, you didn't see that virtuoso the other night, huh?
Against Portland?
Oh, against
Eight-man Portland?
Against Dallas?
Football.
Oh, against one-man Dallas?
Yeah, that's some man, though, right? Let's talk about
he's some man now.
Talk about that man.
Yes, let's get started with yesterday's Clippers-Mavs game because late in the first quarter, Marcus Morris came down hard on Luka Doncic as the Mavs forward drove to the basket, making contact with his head and causing him to go to the floor. Morris was given a flagrant 2 foul and ejected. The Clippers would end up winning the game and series. But after the game, Luka said, quote, "It's 2 games in a row he did something like that, and I really hope the first game it wasn't on purpose. But looking back on the foul this game, you know what I think." So, Shannon, what is your view on how this play unfolded?
Well, he got what he deserved. He should have been ejected. I'm not surprised. I would have been surprised had they not ejected him from the ball game. It was a cheap shot, Skip, and I think given his history over the totality of his career, Skip, he's no longer going to receive the benefit of the doubt. And Skip, I don't know if people realize this, but officials watch game film also. And what they've seen from game 1, it was who, Skip? Marcus Morris and Luka Doncic got into it, which led to Kristaps Porzingis being ejected. And then we see the game before this game that I believe he deliberately stepped on Luka's ankle. And I believe Scott Foster, who is the lead official in this game, when they're watching tape, they see an escalation. What transpired, Skip, is that Luka is a young player. And what you do, you start by talking and see if I can get him out of his game. Let me talk. Chirp, 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 chirp. And as you mentioned, Skip, remember he was backing up the court, and he was like, "Oh, y'all doing all that talking." And I'm I'm steady busting you guys up. So once they figured talking couldn't get Luka out of his game, what do we have to do, Skip? We got to ratchet up the physicality of the ball game. And I believe Marcus Morris allowed the physicality to go overboard. Skip, I get it. I understand you try to make a play on the ball, but after that, he raked the man across his face. And they said, you know what? Before we go any further, let's just go ahead and nip this in the bud, and we're going to remove Marcus Morris from the game. But I need former players, and we do that a lot, Skip, in our game of football. Oh, back in my day. Skip, you know back in my day, the movie was $3? Gas was $1.44. Well, you're not back in your day anymore. The NBA is not going to allow this to happen, just like the NFL is not going to allow these kinds of hits to happen. So I'm not surprised by this. Luka, at some point in time, Luka's like, I got to stand up for myself. Boban did a good job of corralling him, and because at the end of the day, Skip, Marcus Morris being ejected is not the equivalent of Luka Doncic being ejected. And I think great players and smart players, superstar players have to understand that. They're willing to do a one-off. That's not Kawhi and Luka being ejected. That's Marcus Morris, who's probably the 3rd or 4th best player on their team, getting ejected for the unquestioned leader, the best player on the Mavericks team. So I'm not surprised that Marcus Morris was ejected for a flagrant 2, given his history, what has transpired in this series, and I think it was a just call. I think it was right, and they did the right thing by ejecting him.
So I, as usual, saw that play a little differently than you did because I see Luka Doncic a little differently, if not a lot differently than you see him. The more I watch him, the more I believe that Luka Doncic is actually a wolf in sheep's clothing. We know he wears sheep's clothing. He's got that, golly gee, nice guy. I love everybody. Why do they hate me?
He does. He's 21. He don't even know any better.
Okay. I don't know. What does he hate about me? I didn't do anything wrong to him.
He didn't.
Beneath that is a high IQ, crafty, former long-time European professional basketball player. He's been a pro since he was 15. He knows all the tricks in the book, and he brought them all to the States to play in the NBA. And I admire him for all the above, but let's not call him something that he is not. He is a wolf in sheep's clothing. And here we went again. He is highly capable of pulling off little gray area, cheap, shoddy, sort of dirty plays that trigger retaliation in a guy who has, as you point out, a long-time reputation for such retaliation. So what happens on that play in question? I thought Marcus Morris just guarded the heck out of him because he's got him dead to rights. He's got him bodied up in the lane, and Luka's going to have a hard time getting this shot up and off.
Right.
And Luka, okay, it's a man's game, and he is becoming a man right before your very eyes. And what does he start doing as he's driving? He starts throwing the bow, and he throws it about 3 different times, and he's just jacking Marcus Morris right up in the chest. And Marcus finally, after about the 3rd little elbow, just finally said, "I've had enough of that," and he just basically cold cocked.
Yeah, exactly.
He did. He just smacked him right across the top
So you
of the
admit
head.
that? You're admitting that part? Okay.
He triggered a flagrant retaliation. Way to go. Advantage Luka, because listen, Marcus Morris is a starter for the Los Angeles Clippers.
And he had got off to a great start, too.
He had, and he is also the primary defender in this series on Luka, because Kawhi, you could argue, should be, and sometimes Kawhi was down the stretch.
Right.
But mostly it was Marcus, because Kawhi is the whole offense. And it does scare me a little bit about the Clippers, because when in doubt, they just say, "Here, you do it."
Oh, Paul George ain't out of his slump?
Do it. You just do it and do it. Oh, he's out there, and he gets
But you told me Paul George was out of his slump.
Oh, well, I don't know. I told you I don't trust him. He's a complimentary star, occasionally turns into George Paul. But do I trust Kawhi Leonard to get buckets when buckets need to be got? You better believe that I do. And in this case, Marcus Morris is gone. Again, they were starting to take over the game. They ended up just jumping to a 23-point lead at the start of the 3rd quarter, and then they backed off Luka. And finally, as I campaigned for a week ago on this show, this day, on a week ago Monday, they did make Luka give up the basketball a bunch in the first half. So they were respecting him enough to say, "We're not going to let you beat us, especially without Porzingis."
Correct.
But now let's go back to 1 week ago, when Luka did beat them with the last-second shot. And what happened fairly early in that game, late in the 1st quarter, about the same time this play happened, there was a play on Reggie Jackson underneath the basket. I don't care what anybody says. This is a dirty play on the part of Luka Doncic, the shucks, gee whiz kid. He just belts Reggie Jackson right across the back of the head, and he knocks it. That's a shot to the back of the head. He knocked him not only out of bounds, but he knocked him a little out, where he was a little woozy getting up.
He tried to tip the ball.
Oh, was he? He just smacked him, because he is a crafty Manu Ginobili-style basketball player. And he got Reggie so good that Reggie had to go all the way to the locker room to get checked out for a concussion.
Man, it wasn't no wrong, Reggie.
Okay, well, I'm just saying. And that prompted, that triggered, that inspired the retaliation on the part of an enforcer, Marcus Morris, who then aimed his foot at Luka's left foot, which carries the...
That was Tuesday night, Skip. That was the game before this Tuesday night.
Okay. Tuesday, but he steps on his shoe.
Look at that, Skip.
And it's intentional. It's aimed. It just is. It's what he does. It's how he plays.
Right.
He's playing his role for this team. They just picked him up at the trade deadline. Right. He is providing them a little bit of enforcement that they probably needed. So, again, I'm looking at retaliation. And I found it very interesting how Marcus Morris responded after the game to Luka on social media. Did you see his, I think it was a tweet response?
You talking about on Tuesday or yesterday?
Yesterday.
Oh, no, I didn't see
yesterday.
it. I didn't see it. I didn't see it.
He said, "Cry me a river, Clippers in 6. The operative word there is cry, because Luka Doncic has turned into the biggest crier I have ever witnessed. He whines after every call or non-call, a lot of them non-calls on his drives, where he just thinks he should go to the free throw line every time he misses a shot. I have never, in all my years going back to the 70s of covering and watching the National Basketball Association, seen any play